Ooh, you got me just so crazy over you. We love Madonna, we love Madonna, we love Madonna, we love Madonna.
You're listening to MLVC, the Madonna podcast, your place for all things Madonna Louise Veronica Ciccone. Hey everybody, it's Stefan.
Hey guys, it's Tony, and thanks for joining us.
Say that again, Tony?
I said, hey guys, it's Tony, and thanks for joining us.
Oh. Sorry, you were a little crackly. I lost you.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to make sure that I had a true, honest response.
No, you got me.
Because sometimes you say quirky little Madonna quotes, so I just wanted to make sure
the show just started, so stay tuned.
True. We're still getting in show mode. Everybody, welcome to the show today. We are welcoming actor Matthew Risch. Matthew, welcome to the program.
Hi. So good to be here. Thank you.
Hey, Matthew. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I mean, I think Stefan's doing all right himself, but...
One of you is in Mexico, am I wrong?
Yes, I'm in Mazatlan, Mexico. I decided to leave New York after 20-something years and try it out here for a year and see how it goes.
Good for you. Wow.
It's been pretty nice so far.
And the land of cheap pharmaceutical drugs and
there you go, and lots of tequila and
yeah, there's some of that here. So where are you calling us from?
I'm in New York City.
Oh, very cool.
How is New York these days?
Scary, a little weird.
Yes,
we see things on the news. It's weird to be on the outside for the first time in a while. It's amazing how scary the news makes New York look.
Yeah, it's been a little frightening. I mean, I think a lot of it is also just like pandemic fatigue and people, my anxiety level in general is just high when I leave the apartment now.
Mm-hmm.
But there has been...
Don't get too close to the edge of the subway.
Yeah, I know. It's been really frightening and like some really, unfortunately there's a lot of, people experiencing houselessness and people with mental needs who can't get to the need that they need.
Yes.
And so it's sort of it can be a little sketchy out there, but it's New York, baby.
Yeah,
it makes the subway like a fun jungle place to go to.
It's a roller coaster ride, and I famously love roller coasters. So
you said it exactly. Like before I left New York, I mean, every time I would leave the house, it was like I had to like talk myself down before even like leaving the building, and it's like, come on, we can't live like this. We gotta. But New York has been through worse, and it'll come back, and it'll come back better.
1,000%. I always think of people who lived here in the 70s and 80s and laughing at me being scared to go on the subway in 2022. You know what I mean? I'm sure I hear all the voices. Oh, if only you were here then. But for me, it's a little frightening.
If you've ever seen the Instagram account What Is New York,
I love it.
Absolutely brilliant. It brings a chuckle to my heart every day. I see they post stuff because it's just like, oh my God, yeah, that's totally what it's like living there. And you see things like I saw they posted something the other day. There was like a group of like 20 rats leaping out of a garbage, like a huge mound of garbage and fleeing into one of those restaurant pavilions on the side of the street. And I was like,
seen it.
Oh, I miss it.
I know. Well, I know. There's a lot of the good thing is that there is a sense of camaraderie and a sense of community.
Yeah.
As New York always does, and in hard times sort of pulls together. I mean, it's been hard to literally pull together because we have to be at least 6 feet apart. But there is that sense in the air, and when you go out, and everyone's a little depressed and downtrodden, but like, hey, we're all in the same boat.
Mm-hmm. We've all been through it. But before we go any further, I'm going to give you a proper introduction, Matthew.
Please do.
So, known mostly as an actor for his work on television and theater, Matthew Risch recently made his writing and directorial debut with the short film Stranger Out of View. As an out gay actor, he's appeared in such television shows as Looking, Modern Family, How to Get Away with Murder, Bonding, Younger, Switched at Birth, Gossip Girl, and the Tales of the City reboot. He's also starred in the feature film Test from writer-director Chris Mason Johnson. On Broadway, Matthew starred in Other Desert Cities and Pal Joey. He was featured in the original company of Legally Blonde. He was also in Chicago, and he's splitting his time between New York City and LA. And welcome to the show.
So
Thank you.
bougie. I love when
What
people
an
split their
introduction.
time between
Wow.
coasts. It's like,
I know.
Well, not anymore. I haven't been to the West Coast in forever just because of COVID. But yes, I like to say between New York and LA. It used to be more, but it's mostly New York now. Yeah.
And feel free to sing Broadway tunes whenever you'd like.
Yeah.
Just you can loosen up those pipes and
Clear out the cobwebs, as they say.
yeah, exactly. Well, so before we get to questions about your career, because I there's so many things I want to chat about with that. Let's first talk about the woman of the hour,
Yes.
Madonna. Let's go back in time to when did Madonna first appear on your radar? When did your Madonna journey begin?
When did you
my
feel touched for the very first time?
when my ears started working and I could see, when I started walking. No, I mean, it really is. I was thinking about it this week, and it's like, I mean, she was I think the first time I probably ever, it must have been MTV. I was born the same week as MTV was. So I sort of always grew up with that as my guide. And it was always on, and I was born into this pop music world. And of course, she famously sort of like, that's where she began and where it all started for her. And the two sort of went hand in hand, MTV and Madonna.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just see her on the TV constantly and see all those old original music videos and just was so enamored, as we all are, with her charisma and her sex appeal and her dancing and stage presence. And I was just sort of like, what is this person? And growing up and getting older and realizing that I'm gay, and there was really no one else who said that it was okay to be gay. I mean, she was sort of the first person for me in my time, in my generation, where I was watching someone with a public forum and all this power sort of stand up for gay rights and talk about that. And I was just like, wow, like my family isn't even ready to talk about it yet. I'm not ready to talk about it yet. And here is this woman sort of vouching for me. And I felt so like spoken for in a weird way. And that's really powerful when you're a young gay boy,
Especially back then, I mean, that's the thing. It's so commonplace today in movies, television, and whatnot. And
no one else was doing it.
Exactly. It's like there was no avenue to sort of find. I think that's what sparked so much for, if we were young when Madonna was coming to, on television and in songs and music videos, we were seeing something that we were not being exposed to on normal television, that she was presenting. And like, well, you don't have to be this heterosexual white couple on television. You can be anything you'd like to be. And
right. Yeah. And just in watching her challenge reporters, there's some great like compilations someone posted on TikTok. And I think they're younger than me. I think they're in their 20s. And it was fun because I think this person sort of discovered Madonna through this and was like, she was like, it was just so fun to see that. And I was watching these clips and watching her stand up for gay rights to interviewers and being like, why not? Why is it weird? She's really pushing those buttons. Even in the world of journalism, I found. So yeah, I mean, all that stuff, and watching her perform, and just, there's such an artistry to it, obviously. And especially back then, it was like, what is she's doing something different that really I haven't seen before in this world of pop music video. That's so new.
So Matthew, as a young performer, what about her music, like which songs or what performances resonated with you, kind of like forming your growth as an artist, like when you see what you want to do when you see yourself on stage,
It was really, the True Blue album for me was it was really Open Your Heart was like the first video where I was like really, really taken aback as a young boy, and like the Fosse inspiration and all that stuff, which sort of like, knowing theater a little bit as I did back then, but like my two worlds were merging. It was sort of like my theater world and my pop music world. And she was sort of like marrying the two. And I found that so exciting. And that song is such a hit and it's such a bop. And there was something so powerful about seeing this woman in charge and dancing the way she danced and being so sexual, and this sweet story of this little boy sort of like in awe of her, and of course I related to him, and then of course related to her. It was sort of like the best of both worlds. But that was the first video that really, really got me, and I sort of since that, after that, fell in love, and then Like a Prayer came out and changed the game in a whole new way. And I went to high school. I went to a boarding arts high school, and my friend Matt Rawson, actually, who listens to your podcast, as do I, and he loves it.
Hi, Matt.
Hi.
He's going to be so thrilled. But he was like, "Have you ever seen Truth or Dare?" And I was like, "No, I've never seen Truth or Dare." And he was like, "We're watching it right now." So we would have, in between classes, we'd go to the dorm and we'd watch it like every day. And I just was so in awe of it, and in awe of that whole cinematic experience. And the way that Alec filmed the performances was so unique and so exciting and gorgeous. And it really just, I had a whole new respect for her as an artist after watching that movie. As performative as it is, you can only get so real with Madonna, I think, as is with most pop stars. But I just remember just falling in love with her, and that whole storyline of her being this mother to her dancers. And it was so
even
beautiful.
if it's not 100% true, it's
no,
still,
even if they're suing her and they hate her and whatever, but
it's still a sweet story regardless.
As
a piece of fiction, it's still sweet.
Sure.
Yeah, and it must have been really powerful for you to see the theatricality of, like, for lack of a better phrase, a theater troupe on the road, because it did not come across like a band on tour, right?
No, not at all. And I think, I don't know the real true history of pop music. I know Michael Jackson went on tour. Was it that same year or a year later? Was it the Dangerous tour? And I don't know how theatrical that was. I never saw it. I'm not really part of the White Glove Mafia, but I know that when I saw that, I was certainly like, has this been done before? And sort of like my knowledge now, it seems like she was really one of the first, if not the first, to be like, I want to do a musical, and I just want it to be with my music. I always say, I'm like, Madonna couldn't get a gig on Broadway, so she wrote a musical for herself. It seems like that's sort of what she did. And it's amazing, and it's beautiful, and it's powerful, and it takes you on a journey, like she says in the movie. And it's just so well done, and she doesn't really stop, really, to talk to the audience, which when I'm seeing a pop show, I don't want it to. I want it to be theater,
Yeah. I think I've said it before on the podcast, where Blind Ambition was the very first concert tour I ever saw. So I had no idea that concert tours were ever anything else other than that. So I just assumed that that's what a concert tour was. You came out and had costumes and changing sets, and the themes changed, and there was elaborate choreography and like set pieces moving. Like I was so spoiled from Blonde Ambition and Madonna, because it's like, that's the bar that was set coming out of the gate. And it's like, I think I had eventually seen some other shows after that, and I was like, this isn't Madonna. What's going on here?
Yeah, wow, set really high. But she did change the game. I'm sure people after that were really trying to emulate her. It's funny too, because I don't want to say that was her peak, but for me, in a way, it was her peak, because I'm a dancer, as you know, and so to see her really dance, like obviously when she knew she was being filmed, I think he shot those shots in Paris for the like Express Yourself for Truth or Dare, and then I always watched on YouTube the last show in Nice, and she's like really going for it. And you're like, oh my God, this woman is dancing for hours and doesn't fucking stop. Like, she's just going and going and going. And, she lip syncs when she needs to and whatever. And she's doing audio on top of a recording maybe. But like, it's just exciting to see a pop star like really going for the choreography and like executing it well. And the choreography looks great on her. And, all that Martha Graham inspired stuff. It's beautiful. It's so powerful.
So, Matthew, tell us, have you seen Madonna perform live, or have you had any close encounters? And tell us about those.
I saw, so the first live show I saw was Drowned World.
Oh,
nice.
I think I was in, do you know what year that was? What year was that?
It was 2001.
2001? Okay, so it was like my first year in college, and I saw her at the Fleet Center in Boston, and I went, my dad could get tickets through his work to like anything at the Fleet Center.
Mhm.
Usually everyone wins sports. So no one wanted a Madonna ticket. So I, of course, took the Madonna ticket and I went by myself. And I was like in a box with like all suits and like business people and their wives. And I was like, got there early, just sat in the front and like did not move and just like put my hands over the railing. And I was just like numb for 2.5 hours. I was like, so, well, first of all, she was an hour late, as she always is.
Of course.
But,
Just an hour? Wow.
I know, just an hour. That time, Rebel Heart was a different story.
So conservative back then.
I know.
So conservative back then. I know she was so nice to us back then. But I was just like, I can't believe I'm in the same room as her. And I do love that tour. I mean, it's obviously a soft spot because it was the first one I saw, but it was
talk about theatrical. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, like Blonde Ambition and Girly Show definitely were theatrical, but I felt like Drowned World Tour was just like
was the most. Yeah.
It was just so over the top, and like even more so in terms of like how her performance level was. You know, like
Yes.
she was definitely inhabiting characters in that, whereas like Blonde Ambition, Girly Show, I don't think the characters were as sort of prominent.
Fleshed out.
Yeah.
But yeah, Drowned World Tour, I mean, it was like, it's full blown, like theater.
Well, and what I love about that one too is like whereas in Blonde Ambition, you can tell that she's straining her voice a little, and like she's really just trying to get and she gets the notes out. And I, as a theater performer, love watching a singer struggle. I talk about this with my friends all the time and we debate it. But there's something when you're watching a musical and the stakes are really high. And if it's so easy for the singer to do, you're like, oh, there's no excitement. The stakes aren't so high. And then when you see someone like Madonna during Blonde Ambition, she's like really sort of like straining and the emotion is there. And that was so exciting to see. But on the flip side, what I did love about Drowned World, the girl had some voice lessons and was seeing someone, and you can tell, and she had really worked on her voice. Obviously, we all know for Evita, and I think with Ray of Light, she was seeing someone, and she sounded great. She sounded so good, and she wasn't pushing, and it was so effortless in a way that was really beautiful. And when she was playing guitar, and it was a whole different experience, and it was just as lovely. It was really.
And
really...
the thing I thought that was so amazing about Drowned World Tour was she had just become a mother. And she was, here she is out on tour, and she's actually, I felt she sounded better on Drowned World Tour than she did on any of the previous tours.
Definitely.
Like she's singing live through, I mean, you can hear her breathing and you can hear her singing, and her lower register is just gorgeous in that show. It
is. And you can just see her, that she knows she has to be calm and not move as much because she's got to get the notes. And it was refreshing to see. I appreciated that a lot. She really worked on that.
And so after Drowned World, what else did
I saw Rebel Heart in Los Angeles.
Nice.
Which was fun. We were really high up and she was like 2 hours late. And I have patience. I'm a patient person, but like, and I should have known better. But I was like, you cannot make us wait 2 hours for you to start the show, girl. You're going to start the show.
Maybe she was stuck in traffic. LA has lots of
I'm so sure she was. It was, it was a Tuesday night and I got home at like 1 a.m. I was like, oh my God. But I did enjoy that tour a lot. That was fun. And then I just saw her at the Red Rooster when she performed.
Oh, you were there.
There.
Oh, I was there too. Oh, how did I not see you? Oh my God, it was amazing.
You two,
it was amazing.
Talk amongst yourselves and tell us what were some highlights of seeing her at the Red Rooster that night.
Well, so maybe I didn't see. Were you in the celebrity side of the Red Rooster?
I was in the celebrity side, not because I'm a celebrity, but because of my good friend of mine, Ahmed, has a friend who, oh God, I'm forgetting his name, but he directed the Madam X tour. He did all the camera work for the Madam X tour show.
Oh, he was friends, Ricardo?
I don't know. Oh God, I'm so embarrassed.
Right, because Ricardo did the Madam X tour for her.
Where it was someone who he like specifically did the cameras for it.
Yeah, and then there was a production team that worked on it. With
Yes. And I have a friend who's friends with him, and my friend knows that I love Madonna. And he was like, "Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Absolutely, I can't turn this down."
Oh, lovely. Well, did you? What did you think of the show?
I loved it. I mean, I was like drunk, and then my buzz went down, and she was late, and I was like hot, and I was warned.
She was late.
And I was warned that the air wouldn't be on because she doesn't want it to be cold for her voice. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so hot. And I can't stand being hot. So I was like sweating. I wore a tank top. I knew what to do. But, and then she came out and I she was like right in front of me, which was really exciting. But I was also like, oh, this woman is so excited to perform right now. Like you could just like feel the energy coming from her and see it in her face. She was looking out at us and I was like, wow, for her to be where she is and to be like in the basement of a restaurant in Harlem
Right?
and she is so excited to perform. I was like, that's why I love you.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
did you enjoy the love parade through the streets of Harlem?
I did. I joined it. I was, when she was doing like a prayer and leaving, I was like, oh, she's gonna go out the back. What a cute way to exit and end her show. I loved that. Okay, I'm gonna
Like,
go
no,
home.
you're going too.
Right, yeah. And then I went outside and was chatting with my friends, and someone was like, wait, what's that? And like they were turning the corner. We didn't know that it was still happening. And so we saw it and we were like, wait, that's crazy. So we followed it and I was like, wait, she's literally taking us through the streets of Harlem right now. And she's literally taking us to church. This is so crazy.
Yeah.
And then she sat on those stoops. And I'd come from a memorial earlier from someone I knew who we lost to COVID. So I was like sort of on the edge a little bit. And then I just started sobbing. I was like, it was so beautiful. And they kept going and I was like, I'm going to walk away now because I don't want to see this to end. I don't want to see this end.
Yeah.
So I just like walked.
Well, you let it end on your terms. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Just like hearing the echoes of like a prayer, I got on the subway and I was like, that's the perfect way to end this night. It was so beautiful.
Oh, that's so cool. Stefan, you'll have to send him some of the video you shot because you might be a special guest star.
I was taking one for the podcast team. I was like I normally never record video at Madonna shows because I was like, I don't like to watch things through my phone, but I just held the phone up against my chest and I was like, I pray that I get her on this. And some stellar video, especially the moment when we were in the love parade outside on the streets of Harlem and the crowd bumped me and I turn and Madonna's right next to me. Like,
right?
Like literally standing right next to her for like 5 seconds, and then the crowd pulled me away, and she just kept walking. It was amazing.
I mean, it was such a weird, amazing experience to be able to be so close to her and really just be like in that group with her. It was so weird.
Yeah.
And then I saw like Lola on the side of the street with her friends. So so weird. What's going on right now?
And what did you think of her voice that night? I mean, I only saw it on video, but I thought she sounded great.
She sounded great
during Crazy. I'm just like, oh, this is what I want. I want
Madonna
to sing.
Really, really good. And there was during La Isla Bonita, there was a moment when like, she obviously doesn't move like she used to, but like there was like a dance breaking. I could see it in her and like see the fight. And she was like really let loose for a little bit and then like drew it back in, because she also like only had so much space, but it was like exciting to see that. I like saw the old Madonna.
I mean, I'm still thinking it's like girlfriend needs to get off the heels and put on some dance shoes and then just dance, Madonna. Like, I don't care if you're wearing heels, like put on some like MC Hammer pants and some Adidas sneakers and just have a full-on dance party. Like, I know. To get off the 6-inch stilettos. It's just
I know. I mean, but I've had friends who've gone to the her Oscar after party.
Oh.
And I was like, how is it? Tell me everything. And he was like, it was crazy. But like she kept to herself with her dancers. But the one thing they said was that she didn't stop dancing the entire night. Like she was just moving with her friends in the corner, like fully dancing. And I was like, that's why we love her.
Mm-hmm.
I love her.
Thank you for telling us about your Madonna journey. I know that you have an illustrious career that I would like to ask a little bit about. So you've been on like umpteenth amounts of iconic shows that are out there. One that I was very happy to see you on, which is a favorite show of mine, is Modern Family.
Oh, yeah.
What was your experience like working on Modern Family? Because you were sort of part of Mitch and Cam's little entourage.
Yeah, the gay mafia. It was wonderful. It was so great. I mean, that show it was such a gift and a blessing. First of all, to be able to work on such an iconic show that's been around for so long, and to be able to work with those actors. And I had known Jesse from the theater scene, Tyler Ferguson, from before, and he's such a lovely person. And they're all so lovely. And it's really a family over there. And we shot we did a scene or a couple scenes in the last season, one episode. I don't know if it was the last episode. Was it the last episode? It might have been. And I was like, how many years has it been? And I was like, I've been on the show for 7 years, like inconsistently. But it
Sure.
was so crazy to sort of think about that
Mhm.
and be like, that's what also living in Los Angeles does to you. You really lose track of time. And you're like, oh my God, I've been here that long. No, but it was something like maybe 6 or something like that. And I was like sort of blown away. It was an incredible experience. They were all so lovely. It was so fun to work there. It was a blast. I mean, it's like what it trickles down, and what you see on TV is sort of what you get. I mean, that's what it is. There was no craziness, and it was just like people wanting to have fun and have a good time.
Yeah, I always loved that they sort of like had those like background characters that, I mean, not background actors, but like you were sort of like a secondary character where you
Yeah.
would sort of like flit in and out every now and again, and you'd sort of reappear in scenes and whatnot. How was like, I mean, obviously it was on a network television show, it was a network television show that was on for 10 years with A-list actors.
Mm.
And what were the days like when you would have to show up and do a scene with, like, was it like people just laughing and cracking jokes and just like having so much fun? Or was it like, let's just get this done and then we can go enjoy the rest of our day?
I mean, it was sort of a little bit of both. You know what's so great about that show is it's like a single cam. So there's really like usually only one camera or two cameras. They get it in really quick. And they obviously had been working for many years, so they had it down. So it would be like really quick, but also really fun. And it depends on the scene, and depended like on who was coming on to the show as a guest or what the scene dictated. But it was always people trying to crack each other up. I mean, that's the goal, is like we're all just trying to make the audience laugh. So we're obviously going to try and make each other laugh. And improving. I mean, I wasn't really established enough to go in and just start making lines up. I don't think that would have been appreciated. But to watch the regulars sort of do that and have fun was really, really exciting and a blast to be around.
So you were on Modern Family. You were also on HBO's Looking with Jonathan Groff and Murray Bartlett, who's now blown up because of The White Lotus. And who else? Who am I forgetting? Who was the third person on Looking? I'm blanking on his name.
There was Raul, and there was
I know Daniel Frances was on the show too.
Yes,
yeah, that's right. Right. Yeah. But
Yeah.
how was that? How did it compare to being like? I mean, because it's such a very different type of show, but it's still. I love.
You guys shot that in San Francisco, right?
We did. What a gift! Oh my God! Anytime you get a chance to shoot in San Francisco, I've had so many jobs that have brought me there. I've been so lucky. I love that city so much. It was a great experience. So different for so many reasons. Andrew is so cinematic with his directing, and we knew going in that Looking was going to be sort of like a Weekend-esque vibe.
So quiet and subtle. And
it shoots, and they shot the show like that. I mean, that's how he directed it. It was very much like, let's go back and try it again, or let's like play around. There was much more freedom with that. I remember when I auditioned from the very beginning. I remember my friend, Ryder Doyle, who was an actor at the time. He's now a writer-director, but he was going in for the Jonathan Groff part, and he had me read the lines, and I put them on tape. And his agent, I think, responded and was like, "Who's reading with you? They should go in for it." So that I called my agents and I read for it. And then I remember originally going in for Murray's part, and I remember getting like close to the end, and I was like, this is so weird, because we have like a significant somewhat of an age gap that would like make the characters so different. And it was such a fun experience, because I remember the requirement was, they were like, learn the scene, do the scene, but don't do the scene. Like, just make up your own version of the scene. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so fun. And it was, because you got to make it your own, and you got to make it you. And that show was so much about that, was just sort of like verite, making it real and just being natural, which is really, for me at the time, was fun as an actor, because it was like sort of coming from theater and coming from playing like a Republican senator on Switched at Birth, which was a blast, but just like not who I am. It was fun to sort of be like, oh, it's going to be like just me. Like, I get to be myself.
I was sad that show didn't sort of take off the way that I think HBO was hoping it would, because like it got. I'm glad that they gave it a final movie to sort of tie up some of the loose ends in the plots, and it was a beautiful movie. But yeah, I just kind of felt like we didn't have something like that on television. You know, like
You
it was such a great contrast to something like Queer as Folk. You know, Queer as Folk had been on Showtime, and it was like flashy and dance club and like basically like a gay music video with lots of sex and skin. And I just felt like
Exactly.
Looking was such a great opposite of that, where it was the, you know, quiet and I think that's what the problem was, is that, you know, the gays were like, oh yay, it's a gay television show, and then it wasn't Queer as Folk, and it was
Right.
like, yeah, there was nudity, but it was like, it was real, and like you were in it, and that's what I loved about it.
I did
Yeah.
too. I thought it was a wonderful next step for gay television in a way, you know, and I know a lot of people have problems with it, and you know, the complaint is that there weren't enough trans and people of and BIPOC, and totally, I totally see that. I just think at the time, with what that show was doing, it was at least it took a step forward in a way, in its own small way, you know what I mean? And I hope that it's looked upon like that. And I loved it. And I think Andrew's a brilliant writer director, and it was so lovely to work with him and all those actors. And we had Reed, who was the DP on that, who's now gone on to direct and write so many things. And it was just like a wonderful crew and a wonderful group of people. And to be able to do that in San Francisco is such a gift.
Mm-hmm. God, now I want to start watching it again, because I missed that show. I mean, it had such a wonderful, like you said, cinematic, and it felt lived in. It had this quality that you don't find often with new shows that you start watching. Sometimes you have to warm up to them, but this show, you were ready for that world as soon as you got there. It was great.
Yeah, yeah, and I loved especially that one episode in the first season when Jonathan Rowe will have that day date, and it's just
Love
the whole
that. Oh my
episode
God,
is
that
just
was
him
that
playing
episode was
hooky and going
beautiful.
on the boat. Such a sweet little like bottle episode that's like its own little movie. I just think Andrew did all of that so wonderful, and Michael, the writer, of course, Michael Lannon, who was the writer, did all that so wonderful, wonderfully. Yeah, it was a special show, and I think people look back on it fondly. I hope they do.
If you haven't seen Looking, check it out.
Check it out.
It's got to be on HBO Max.
I mean, mostly in season 2, which is funny because some people are like, I saw that show and I didn't see you, and I'm like, well, you didn't see season 2.
Yeah. So another series that you ended up on was Younger, which was created by Darren Star and shot in New York City, and also co-starring Debbie Mazar. So did you get to work with her? And tell us what it's like to work on a Darren Star show, because that's also kind of like a finely wheeled machine too, right?
It was really fun. I had a really great time. I mean, you know, this is sort of like, it's a Hollywood curse. For me, it's a blessing, but like once you play a gay character, you never stop playing gay character.
Right.
So it was like, I'll play a gay character until the day I die. I don't care. I want to. I don't want to play a straight person anymore. It's so boring.
Seriously, yeah.
And that show was that. It was like me and Chris Henke, who I had known from the theater world, and I was like, this will be a blast. And I had known Sutton sort of like peripherally, but I was very nervous around Debbie because of Madonna, and I was like, you have to leave this shoot having asked her about Madonna, and of course I never did. I never got up the strength. I was such a wuss. But I just would look at her and just think about it and be like, just picturing her in the elevator at Dance
True
Studio.
Blue, baby.
I know.
You're just like seeing
like,
her on the back of that car.
They've had
know.
facials together, you know.
She's so gorgeous. I mean, we all know this, but she's so striking, those eyes, and she was so lovely to work with. No, that show was a blast. It was so fun to be on. I was hoping we get to come back, but alas.
Now, Pat Field did the costumes for that. Did you get styled for that by her people?
She did do the costumes for that.
Yeah,
That's
I think
right.
so.
I totally forgot that. I certainly never wanted her.
They just let you wear what you came in that
actually, now that
morning.
you say that, I do think I remember seeing her on set. Yeah, I can't believe I totally forgot that. Wow, brain fart.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on those sets, so it's
I know
it's
it's
understandable.
always madness. It was just trying to remember my lines, I'm sure. But that was a wonderful. I mean, to be able to shoot in New York too. So it was it was great. They shot like right in my neighborhood too, so I like just rolled out of bed and went to set. It was great.
Can't ask for a better job.
You really can't. I mean, that's the dream. It's like, yeah, great.
And you also have like very impressive list of Broadway credits. I personally was very excited to see you in Legally Blonde, the musical on Broadway. I think that was when you first sort of popped on my radar. I took my mom. My mom loved the movie, and so I took my mom
Oh, yay.
for Mother's Day the one year to go see it. We
Sweet.
both wore pink because, of course, you have to wear pink to go see Legally
Of course you
Blonde.
have to.
And she actually, it was funny because my mom didn't believe that. I was like, Mom, you have to wear pink. And she's like, why?
Yeah.
I'm like, because you have to wear pink when you go see Legally Blonde. And she didn't believe me. She's like, this is stupid. Why are we wearing pink? And then we get there and everyone, not everyone, but like a lot of people are wearing pink.
A lot of
She's like,
people.
oh yeah, you're right. People are wearing pink.
It's
I'm
a
like, I told you.
thing.
I'm like, trust me, Mom. Trust a gay son. Tell us about your experience of, because you were part of the like original Broadway cast of that show. How much fun was that show to do?
It was,
Yeah, because Broadway shows take like 27 years to put together,
I
right?
know. It was the time of my life. It was like the highlight of my career for me. It was just
It was your blonde ambition.
Because exactly, yes, it was my blonde ambition. I mean, Jerry Mitchell is such a wonderful, beautiful, generous, lovely, sunshine of a person. And I had done Broadway Bears for him, and I really wanted to be a part of the show. And I knew Larry O'Keefe's work, who had done Bat Boy, and I thought that was so fun and funny and irreverent. And I was like, oh, this is going to be smart. And I didn't know Nell Benjamin's work at the time. There are a couple, and she did the lyrics, which are some of the most funny and smart lyrics, I think, in the musical theater canon. And I did the last workshop they did before they started rehearsals. So I did get to see a lot of changes. When I did it, Rachel Dratch was playing Paulette in the which was so different and so
That's a choice.
Yeah.
so broken and wounded, and it was obviously funny.
Yeah.
And it was it's so exciting to see a show morph and change and grow, and it was such a wonderful experience. And to be able to sit on the sidelines when I wasn't working and just watch how all these wonderful actors worked and learned and soaked in so much. And Jerry Mitchell knows how to put a good group of people together. I mean, he famously says, he's like, I want to work with talented people, but at the end of the day, I want to be able to like go out and have a drink with you after. And like, so he just puts together, he knows what people will get along, which people will get along. And boy, did he. I mean, we were all just living our lives and having so much fun off stage and on. We were all just like one big family. It was such a blast.
And how does it
all?
Oh, sorry. How does it differ your experience in theater to working on film and television? Obviously, you're doing a bit more work. The load is a little heavier when you're 8 shows a week.
Yeah. It's very, very different. You really become a family when you're in the theater. I mean, you see each other. It's like camp, but that it never ends, or it goes on for 2 years, if not more, and you see the worst of people, you see the best of people, and in that way you all become brothers and sisters, and it's wonderful. It's great. And there's some people that you maybe rub you the wrong way, but they become like your brother that you like nudge and wrestle with. I mean, it's the best. It's like, it's so much fun. I can't describe it. It's just like a wonderful, wonderful, magical thing that we all get together and we all sit at home all day. And then at night we get on the subway and we go into this theater and we turn on and we feed each other off each other's energy, and we slap on this makeup and put on these costumes and we go on that stage, on a Broadway stage in front of a full audience, hopefully full. And it's just magical. It's so, so wonderful. You become so close to these people. And sometimes in television too. I've never, been the lead of a television show, but I assume that it would be a somewhat of a similar experience. But there's something about doing all, blood, sweat, and tears on a stage that really just brings people together. And you go through a lot emotionally on stage and off. It can be, dramatic, and it can be wonderful, and it can be sometimes tragic and sad. And you go through everything with these people, and they really become family. I'm still close with so many of them.
Oh, so Tell me about the fervent fan base for the show, because I remember seeing it, but just by accident on MTV. They're like, "Oh, now we're going to show this musical." I was like, "What? This is really strange." So of course I watched it, and I did not take my eyes off the TV screen. And then like 2 weeks later, I went to go see it with some friends,
Oh,
and
good.
I couldn't even believe it. I mean, it was like pretty much every teenage girl from New Jersey, Long Island, and Connecticut screaming at the top of their lungs. And I'm like, you experience this every show for 8 shows a week?
We did. Yeah, it really like towards the end after that taping really brought out fans. I mean, we had some hardcore fans. It was so fun. They would be there sometimes every day. It was so fun to see, and they knew they would bring like things for us, and it was like so great. But it's really funny because we didn't get nominated for Best Musical and we didn't get to perform at the Tony Awards. So we felt snubbed a little bit, and our New York Times review wasn't great. So we were sort of like, oh, this is weird. But then you see the people in the audience, and that's
Yeah.
obviously what matters.
Yeah.
And I remember they decided to do this taping, and we were all like, are we going to be shunned by the community because we're taping a Broadway show? Like,
Absolutely.
it used to be like a controversial thing, not anymore. And we were like, will people not come see the show because they'll just be watching it on TV? Like, we were so scared. And then, Jerry did such a phenomenal job with it, and it's filmed so well. And they taped it twice without an audience and once with an audience
Oh.
because they didn't know what would happen, and they wanted to make sure they could get different shots.
Sure.
And they ended up using like 95% of the live shoot because it's theater.
Yeah.
And you have to have that relationship with the audience.
Well, just the reactions alone, like
Oh,
just-
yeah.
the reactions alone.
Sometimes,
But the
like,
way it turns us on, and the way how we feed, it's
exactly.
a relationship. Live theater is like, the audience is a part of the show.
Now, did this show go on tour, and did you join that?
I didn't. It did go on tour. I didn't go on tour with it. But I did go visit. My dad lived down in Florida, and I visited when they were performing there and got to see it. And it was so good. It was so great.
Now, undoubtedly, because of your Broadway background, you ended up in Sex and the City 2 in the chorus at the gay wedding. I mean, was that pretty much every guy that was good looking that could sing on Broadway got that job?
I think so. we all knew each other. Like every single one of us knew each other or had worked together. So
That
like
is hilarious.
it was a blast. So we were like, can you believe we're here? Like Liza, like Sarah Jessica, like what is going on right now? It was such a blast.
Yeah, there's
that was so over the top. It was
so many
ridiculous.
gay worlds coming together and exploding at the same time. It's like you don't even know where to look,
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, we had to like warm up with SJP and Kim Cattrall and all those people. It was like, wow, this is so great. And then in walks Liza in a sequin onesie doing like, single ladies. And I was like, it was such a camp explosion. We were all freaking out. But we were also very tired because it was long hours, but it was very fun.
That's the kind of work that you do for free, I would say. Not that anyone's asking actors to work for free, God forbid, but
No. And I do love that residual check when it comes, but I would have done it for free. It was such a blast.
So you were in Sex and the City 2, as any Sex and the City fan knows, Sex and the City 2, many people do not count that as canon because they felt that had just crossed a line, that it went too far. Once
That's why
once they went to Abu Dhabi, they were like, this is not really Sex and the City. We do not count this. But did you get to watch And Just Like That?
Of course I did. Of course I watched it. We all did.
And what were your thoughts?
It's a very different show.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the name. I know. I think it was strange when people were like, why are they changing the name? Why isn't it Sex and the City? I'm like, well, they're changing the show.
But wasn't it so exciting at the end of the last episode when she just said, and this is Sex and the City?
I screamed. Of course, no one heard me, but I screamed.
Exactly.
I was like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for the last 10 episodes.
It's it must be such a weird thing to have a show be so successful, get turned into 2 movies because of the relationship of these 3 girls. Mm-hmm. And they're all so integral they're, as we all know, that I was going to say if one of them's gone, it's not Sex and the City anymore, and it wasn't. It was something very different.
Yep.
And I mean, I think I'll just leave it at that. But it was fun to watch. I would watch it. I would watch 30 more seasons. I would watch any
Yeah.
incarnation of Sex in the City ever.
Yeah.
Although I did not see the Carrie Diaries, but that's something else completely.
I did, and actually it blends very well. You know, I mean, just
Yeah.
kind of like overlook the clothes because they're really trying to make stuff happen. But you know,
Yeah, I mean, at least listen, and just like that, the clothes were fantastic.
So amazing.
So
Yeah.
good. And I remember
And-
seeing like stills that they would release, and I think a lot of us were like, "What is that? That's a little weird." And then you see it in the show, and you're like, "It's perfect. It's
Yep.
perfect."
yeah, I was a little concerned because I did read that Pat Field wasn't going to do it because she does Emily in Paris.
Right.
But I think they did like it's like a complete update. And you're right, it's not the same show, so you can't have her wearing these crazy things. On the other hand, she wore some of like the classic outfits, and it works so well.
1000%. And did you see that in Just Like That documentary?
So
I
good.
have
It's
not
so
seen it
good.
So good.
Loved
And
it.
I forget what was her name that took over for Pat.
Molly.
Molly. God,
yeah.
what a character. She's so great. I loved watching her and listening to her. And that was my favorite part of it. Just like that was a documentary. I was like, is this
Oh, I
going to
gotta
be
watch
weird?
that.
And it was so entertaining.
Yeah, we need another season. I have a feeling there will be another season.
I think there will be. I hope. Fingers crossed.
Well, it was HBO's most watched original program ever.
Was it really? I can only imagine.
Like
Really?
HBO will be throwing money
Oh,
at Sarah Jessica
great.
Parker.
Do we
So
think Kim will come back?
No. And Sarah Jessica said she doesn't want her to.
She did?
Yeah, that was
She
the most
said
recent. The most recent quote was, even if they know she's not going to, but
Okay.
Sarah Jessica was like, no, we don't think that it would, because so much has been made over so much drama has been made over so much that she'd be like, she knows, SJP knows it would just overshadow the show too much.
But we
Well,
all want her to come
yeah.
back, do we not?
I don't think they do. I think they're happy that she's gone.
Oh,
We
okay.
want Samantha back, and we don't really need to know what happened to Che Diaz after he goes to Los Angeles. But you know, that's just my opinion.
I
will-
personally, if they do a second season, sorry, we're digressing here just too much, but
I know.
I want to see Lisa Todd Wexley's character more expanded. I want to see the professor with Miranda. I want to see
Yes.
her character expanded.
She's
And
so good. They're such great actors. They brought wonderful actors onto this
Mhm.
season.
Yeah, more
Great
SEMA
outfit.
and more of
yes,
them together.
more
Oh,
SEMA too. Yeah,
1000%. Yeah. Loved them.
Matthew, I also wanted to ask you about creating and producing your own work. I mean, a lot of times you can't get the work that you want, so why not just make your own opportunities?
Yeah.
So tell me about some of your passion projects. You know, for example, the short film that you wrote and directed, and what are your upcoming projects, and what's
Well,
getting you going?
It was so funny because I was in Los Angeles at the time, and work was sort of dying down for me, and I was becoming unenamored with living in Los Angeles and thinking I would move back here. And I had this weird. I had gotten out of a relationship, and I started dating this guy that was it was like a rebound situation. It was very toxic, and I was like sort of. You know, it's the classic trope of move to LA and you
Mhm.
get lost and lose your mind. And I sort of like started to experience that. And I'd always sort of wanted to try my hand at directing and writing and directing. And honestly, it wasn't, I thought about not being in it because I didn't want to write something for me to star in. That wasn't the impetus. It wasn't a vanity project for me. It was like, if I'm going to do this, I want to show that I can direct and I have a vision. And I've always loved horror and psychological thriller. And
Mhm.
I'm sort of like shocked that there aren't more queer horror
I know.
films that are sort of like, and there are lots of campy ones, and that's great. And we're starting to have more. Like Stranger by the Lake
Mhm.
is one that I love, and I'm
Yeah.
just so obsessed with that film. But like, you know, I mean, with all of our traumas and all of our horrors as we experience as queer people, why aren't there more sort of like grounded queer thrillers? And so that was sort of the impetus for me to write this script. And I had such a blast doing it. I originally started working on it with Chris Mason Johnson. He was like, who did Test.
Right.
He was like, I want you to write something and I want to direct it. And I was like, okay, great. That sounds wonderful. And we worked off and on for a year or two. And it just wasn't going anywhere. So I originally wrote this as a feature, and it was a feature-length film. And the character was like sort of an actor in the business and about him being closeted, but he falls in love with this guy, and he's very masculine and toxic, and he's sort of like egging him on. It was sort of like a Black Swan type of thing. And then it just sort of fell apart. It wasn't working. And Chris got busy doing other things. And I said, screw it. I'm just going to make it a short and do it myself. And I'm so glad I did. I was so lucky to be able to raise money and get such a wonderful team of people. And it was crazy. We shot it in 2 days. It was mayhem. It was insane. It was very difficult to be in front of and behind the camera. But I purposely made the character sort of like things happen around him and revolve around him. So I could sort of focus more on directing. But I had a blast. I loved it. And I've been writing a feature, a queer horror that I'm working on with a couple of producers.
That's exciting.
Yeah. And it's been really fun. Yeah. I sort of like, I saw, it's in the latest Scream movie makes fun of this, but elevated horror, which is sort of like a big genre now, and everything's a metaphor. But I think there's something in that can be explored with queerness and
totally
all the trauma we've been through, and how does that manifest itself in our lives? And so I've been working on that, and we'll see how far it goes. But I'm sort of in second draft hell right now, but it's been such a wonderful thing to do. And it's been really educational for me, and I'm learning a ton, and I'm having fun, and fingers crossed. That's
that's what we need.
So,
we need a gay Michael Myers. That's exactly what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So where can people watch your short film, the one that you've already made?
It's on Vimeo. It's open to the public. There's a link in my Instagram bio.
Cool.
We'll
put it on
We'll tag it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Well, Stefan, I think it's time for my favorite part of the show.
Oh, it is. Matthew, here on the podcast, all of our guests get a little something we call the lightning round. It is wherever you're at in your Madonna journey today. It doesn't have to be forever. It could just off the top of your head without thinking too much.
Yeah.
Favorite Madonna song?
Open Your Heart. It just came to me.
Oh, you talked about it earlier.
I mean, Live to Tell.
Yeah.
Favorite Madonna music video?
Open Your Heart. No, you know what? Take a Bow.
Okay. Favorite Madonna tour?
Blonde Ambition.
Yeah.
Favorite Madonna movie?
Desperately Seeking Susan.
Nice. And then favorite Madonna look, and this can be from a video, a tour, a photo shoot, in person.
There's so many. I think the Blonde Ambition. It's just like really always comes down to Blonde Ambition for me.
Ponytail or curls?
The curls. The curls.
So some people are ponytail like.
I know it just
diehards.
When it got in the way of her mic, she had to get rid of it, and I agreed with her. Get rid of it. Do the curls. I'm sure her hair is fried permanently from that, but God bless her. She took one for the team. But that Gautier opening with the corset and the pants, like just everything that says, I love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no one was wearing their underwear on the outside, and here we are.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to be a man, and I'm going to be a woman, and I'm going to be in charge, and I'm also going to be, not in charge, and I'm going to be a sub. I'm going to be a dom and a sub. And it was all that in one opening number.
And I'm going to grab my crotch. And for some reason, everyone freaked out about it.
Yeah, and then I'm going to rub my finger in my genitals and lick it on the bottom number. Like, go off.
And then later, I'm going to masturbate on a bed.
But that's later.
Yeah, I'm going to masturbate and then immediately have redemption and cover myself in a shawl. I'm like this to go from like a virgin to like a prayer. I was like, this is brilliant. This is so good.
It was probably her best transition she's ever done.
1,000%.
Yeah, it's cathartic, as one is wont to say.
Yeah.
Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. I really loved getting your take on everything you think about Madonna, and also just a little peek into the world of Broadway and acting. So tell everyone where they can find you on social media so we can keep up with you.
I'm on Instagram. I got kicked off of Twitter for trolling Republicans. I'm on Instagram. It's my full name, Matthew Risch, and there's an underscore after the H.
Awesome.
And that's it. That's my social media presence. No TikTok, sorry.
Oh, well, that's all right. We'll tag you up. And remember, everybody, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at MLVC Podcast. You can also donate to the podcast at Venmo at MLVC Podcast, as well as consider becoming a subscriber. Help keep the show going. We're on Patreon, patreon.podbean.com/MLVC Podcast. Matthew, thanks for joining us. This was a lot of fun.
Thank
and
you so much for
I'm going to go
having me.
listen to the Legally Blonde soundtrack.
Yay! Perfect.
All right, Matthew. Until next time. Thanks.
See
for
ya.
Thank you,
joining us.
guys.
Bye,
Thank you so much.